All right, and then I'd like to introduce or let the panelists introduce themselves. So today, again, we are hosting an international alumni panel. So all four of the panelists, if they're able to join, the three that are with us right now, are alumni from the School of Management and Labor Relations. So all the topic that we'll be talking about can span across a variety of different majors. But if you are specifically, HR, labor relations, you might be able to relate to some of their stories. So I'm just going to go ahead. I see our last panelist just joined us. And after we go through the introductions, we're going to kind of walk through what their journey has been, if they're able to provide any advice on CPT, OPT, and their experiences with that, experiences throughout their career journey thus far, and answer any specific questions that you might have. We'll have some opportunity for that. So I'm going to be facilitating most of the conversation. I'll give each of the panelists an opportunity to respond if they have a story or advice that they'd like to share, and then Wei Wei is going to help me moderate as well. So just to kick us off, I'll let each of the panelists introduce themselves to you.
So hello everybody, my name is Mayuri Bastikar, and for those of you who might find that a little difficult maybe to pronounce, you can call me May. I was in the Masters of Human Resources program from the fall 2015 batch, and I graduated in May 2017. I was an international student from India, and I'm currently living here. I started my career when I came back to India with Pfizer in their talent team. And I grew in the organization, initially supporting About Market and enabling business partnering. And today I am supporting their people experience team, which is the human resources team at Pfizer, for 3 of their commercial businesses. So that's what I do.
All right, I'll go next. My name is Vicky. I am from China, and I'm currently living in New Jersey, and I work in New York. So my first job out of Rutgers. So I got my master's degree in HR at Rutgers about 4 years ago, so 2018. Still feel like yesterday, but yeah, it was 4 years ago. So the first job I got is at Colgate-Palmolive. So it's a consumer products company. You may have seen their toothpaste in the supermarket. So I worked at Colgate at their Global Talent Acquisition Center of Expertise team. So when I was there, I was mainly focusing in HR technology, HR strategy, as well as their HR data analytics. So after that, last year, I got the opportunity to become a human capital consultant. So now I'm a full-time consultant at Deloitte, and my focus is around HR strategy and digital solutions. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen. I'm also from China, and Mayuri and I graduated in the same year. And I, after graduating in 2017 from the HRM program, I started my first full-time job as a recruiting analyst in a Mercury system. It's a very small staffing company. And there I, utilize my analytical skills to provide insights to the staffing team and their performance. And then later on, I moved on my second role, which is the Total Rewards Associate at Sun Pharma in Princeton, New Jersey. There I manage the comp, benefits, and performance management, 3 pieces, supporting North America business. And then recently I just joined, I think last September, so I'm still new, joined Citigroup as the global lead comp analyst, supporting the whole global compliance business. We have, I'm currently supporting over 10,000 employees around the world. So it's quite fun, my current role. And if you guys are interested in developing your career in compensation or any sort of, that kind of specialized HR field, please feel free to reach out to me.
Hi, firstly, apologies for joining late. I had certain technical issues at my end. I'm Pallavi Jalakam. I graduated recently in Jan 2021. After my graduation, I joined New York University I worked there as e-learning specialist or faculty trainer. As part of my job, I used to train faculty on the educational technologies we used at NYU. And then I moved to Rowan University, who actually sponsored me H-1B visa. At Rowan, my role is similarly same. It's relatively same as what I did at NYU, except that I am slightly more involved in technical side of the learning management system, where I manage learning management systems of Rowan University, along with training faculty. So my role is slightly different from other HR roles who are on the panel today. Thank you.
Thank you for each introducing yourself. It's always helpful just to hear a little bit about your background. We would like to learn a little bit more about, your current role. So we just have some prompts up here. We don't have to go through each of them in detail. I am going to keep an eye on the clock just so that we are mindful to keep to the hour that we've committed to. So just looking at the screen up here, I know I sent this to all four of you ahead of time, but I want to give each one of you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your Rutgers journey and set a foundation for the rest of this conversation. So if you want to touch upon maybe, I think what will be helpful is the second part here, most in particular, where we would like to know if you have recommendations for international students to learn about the culture and the ways of doing things, whether it's like when they were at Rutgers, acclimating to Rutgers, or transitioning into the workforce. So again, changing cultures, things that you did a certain way in a particular country and how you acclimated to Rutgers and then acclimated to the work environment that you're currently in, while also just explaining how you felt you identified and felt meaning in your current role as an international student. So Pallavi, would you like to start in sharing a little bit more about your journey?
Well, yes. So when I moved to America, I definitely needed a part-time job. So before I moved to America, I emailed Martha Puli, who is the instructional design technologist at Rutgers University. She works with our school SMLR. So I met with her after moving here for a couple of times, and then I understood like she wasn't the one to hire me. But then there was suddenly a surge in hiring student employees in SMLR. So I was hired as part-time student, and at the time I was like completely new, so I hardly know anything about American culture. So she was the one who actually helped me understand like certain things. Like she was like a mentor to me. So I suggest like if you're working with the faculty, like I'm sure SMLR has a lot of teaching assistant positions every semester. They hire a lot of students. They try to give opportunities to student employees who are within the HRM or towards the labor side. So my recommendations would be like work with your faculty. They are the ones who are going to help you understand the culture here. Besides that, I was also involved with SHRM meetings. So I used to attend almost every SHRM meeting every month. So you go there, you meet a lot of people from your own country or also from America, of course. So you talk to them, you get to understand like how different things were back in your hometown and how things are here. Especially the major shock for me was the education system itself. So getting used to education system here was really hard for me. Like it's not like spoon feeding for you here. So you have to do your own assignments and all that. So that actually a lot of my American friends helped me get that confidence. So I watched them how they talked in certain presentations and all. That's how I try to understand like the education system here. So that's the one thing I would suggest, like go attend SHRM meetings, actively participate in those meetings. Professor Ferrio, Professor McKeown, they all are there, and ask them questions. Besides that, for international students, I think Rutgers has a lot of ongoing activities going on within the campus. Try to involve in those activities. So you meet people, you get to know other people from different streams and different other countries. Don't just mix up, or don't just be a group with your own country, but also try to have diverse friends. So for me, a lot of my class, my friends were a lot of Chinese, so they taught me certain of their culture, and few of my American friends taught me their own culture. So all these things that I learned from my friends within the SMLR actually helped me when I moved on to my job. So the local language they talk here in the America, like the local slangs or the local vocab, I wasn't really aware of certain words or certain the way you talk, the way Americans talk here. So it all came. I learned all of that from my friends within the SMLR. So nobody from the outside the SMLR actually helped me or taught me much, but friends from within the SMLR and the faculty and other staff members like Rebecca Tinkham and other faculty members, and also Nayana Vaidya from back in career management team. She was also one who actually helped me. So all these things you learn will be applicable someday. You will apply them when you go work. So for me, when I moved to work with NYU or Rowan, the culture was also different. Although I worked back in India for 4 years, I know how to do my work, but I did not know how to go and talk to people, how to start a communication, how to start, conversation with your colleague. But it was all the things that I learned back in school. The meetings that I attended helped me, get used to the culture here.
Great, that's very helpful. Thank you. Jen, would you like to share?
Yes, definitely. I actually wrote a little bullet points to answer the question. So as I mentioned, I will skip the first question because I mentioned a little bit during my introduction. The activities, recommendations for the student that I have is some recommendations is number one is to be aware of who you surround yourself with. Be strategic if you want to involve or immerse yourself in the culture and experience and learn. Be mindful and strategic on who you sit with in class, as easy as that, because we will have group discussions. So that will give you opportunities to share your thoughts and hear people's thoughts. And also, have team projects, who you're going to be on your team or whose team will you join. I purposely took a lot of late night classes, which led a lot of my classmates became American because a lot of them end up working during the day. And there are people came from both the HR program, but also the labor side when I had economy classes and all, and people from all different backgrounds, the government, even I had actually one Rutgers on campus police who became our classmates, which was really cool. And we get to learn and hear different stories and backgrounds, and that kind of helped me grow into the culture. And number two is make new friends. In the beginning of the semester is the best time when everybody try to eager to make new friends and to reach out to new people. So make new friends by, as easy as knock on the neighbor's door if you're living on campus. Try to see who lives by your dorm and who is there. Try to, interact with people, or even talk to classmates during breaks or before and after classes. You can, invite them to walk to the bus stop together or the parking lot together if you're driving, and so on. And that helps you to give you opportunity to open up conversation and make friends. And then the next one is, if you can, this is not definitely you should have, you must do, but recommend you to take a part-time job on campus, whether you're doing the TA work or you're, work in a cafeteria. I worked at Cadoba on Livingston campus. If any of you have ever been there, and that helped me to learn American culture a lot. And the next one I have, the last one I have is to be aware and attend on campus events. There are tons of workshops, network events, or even movie nights that are held not only within the program, but also on campus. So you get to see and meet people and mingle through those events. And 3 things that I wish I know back then is, one is self-initiate, make friends, ask questions, reach out for help, share your thoughts and opinions. Nobody is going to, well, not everybody is going to come to you and ask how you're feeling. What do you think? Do you want to be my friends? So self-initiate these kind of conversations and activities, build a relationship. And then the next one is stay alerted. What I mean by that is looking for emails, keep an eye on posters, anywhere that on campus or the newsletters, looking for the events and activities that's happening that can benefit you in achieving your career goal, or even to kind of, learn the culture. And the last one I have is keep an open mind, because, throw away what you think the culture or the country is based on what you've read, what you've seen, where you don't live in the country. Build your own story and create your own, thoughts by opening your mind and heart to live in the culture and to learn the culture and connect with people from different backgrounds and hear their stories. That definitely would help.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Those are all great advice. I'm trying to summarize what you guys are sharing right now. I'll put it in the chat. May, would you like to share?
Sorry, I think I was on mute. But yeah, so I think the very first thing when I, got to know that I had gotten admitted to Rutgers, I think the very first thing I tried to do is what Pallavi said. I really wanted to gain experience working as either a teaching assistant or research assistant. And so I reached out to a couple of professors, but at that point in time, roles were not, available, or they were not offering it to students who were coming in for the first semester. And so like Jin, I took the opportunity and started working on the Cook and Douglas cafeteria. And that was sort of my first exposure to working in any kind of a setup, in the US. So I wasn't used to it. And it was quite a journey to get even used to working in a cafeteria. And then post that, the next semester, I wanted to switch to a different setup. So I took up a front desk role in the career services, the main career services that's on the College Ave campus. And so I was working there, and that really pushed me to interact with a large set of people throughout the day who were in and out of, the Career Services Center. So that really enabled me to open up. And after that, I think another great opportunity is I was, as someone said on the panel, very actively involved in the Society for Human Resource Managers and Management, and I eventually ended up even taking on a leadership role there. I remember the whole process of organizing the annual conference. It really helped me to understand how things work at the back end, speaking to panelists who were leaders, HR leaders at that point in time. It was a really great networking opportunity for me as well. I think one of the tips that I would give everybody is to start networking, but start networking in the right way. So I think, Jin covered sort of the informal aspects of how you can make friends on campus and interact with a diverse set of people. But I would also highly recommend starting to interact and network with a diverse set of professionals in the industry, and start early. I think that's sort of the one thing that I would tell myself if I had to go back, and approach it in the right way. I think most of the times what happens is, at least for me, I think I started networking towards a point in time when I was closer to needing an internship or a job. And at that point in time, what you need to realize is networking is like building a relationship in your personal life. It takes time to build your network. It takes time and it takes investment. So the earlier you start, the better it is. And try to build genuine relationships even when you're networking professionally. Not everyone is going to be able to help you land an opportunity, but you might find really great mentors or coaches, out of your networking relationships that will really benefit you and help you understand the professional, environment and culture in the United States. Another thing that I did when I was in the program is I put my hand up for, I think, every single case competition. So every single case competition that happened when I was there in the program, I participated in. I believe the first one was just the internal case competition where we had to go and present to L'Oreal, and we presented to their HR leaders there, and that was a great exposure. We won that case competition and went on to present to Ohio State University to the Fisher School Management case competition, where we presented to executives from PepsiCo. That really helped me understand, sort of what is the ask when a problem is presented to you, and I think at the end of it, what I took away is there's real benefit in simplicity of the solution and really focusing on the feasibility. So that was really great for me to understand. And then we also ended up participating in the Minnesota University, I think, case competition. That's like the international case competition. So all of this gave me, a lot of exposure. I eventually also did end up doing a teaching assistantship and a research assistantship. And that just helps you sort of understand the work culture, outside of understanding just living in the country and acclimatizing yourself to that. Participating in some of these activities really helps you understand the professional culture in the country.
Great, thank you. Vicky?
Yeah, sure. So I think all the panelists pretty much covered everything I want to say. I think just one more point around this is use the career services, because I actually used a lot of I went to lots of the sessions to get my resume updated, to prepare for my interview. All those I actually learned from the career services. So do utilize all the resources you have in the school, because they are the one to help you to get prepared, even though you may not know, but they have experience helping people preparing for interviews, helping people getting their resumes polished. So definitely utilize all the resources you can. And also kind of just agree to everyone just said, to participate as much as you can, fully maximize your learning experience here. Kudos to all of you who joined today's event. Join those events. You may learn a lot of things from each other, and also you may just run into opportunities where it may just change your career. So if my experience as a example, I was part of the SHRM and I was the vice president of IT. So it's not really technically IT, but then when I applied for my internship the first time, they saw, oh, this person is something related to IT, and then they are looking for somebody who can do HR technology. So that's how I got my interview, and that's how I got my internship. And then it turned out to be a full-time position. So those are just small things you never know. It may just change your whole career path. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you for sharing. Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to open up the floor. Does anyone have any specific questions on anything that the panelists might have shared? You can either put it in the chat or you can unmute and ask a question. So any questions on anything that they shared? Again, we're talking about their Rutgers journey, advice that they have for you as far as assimilating to new cultures, adjusting to life at Rutgers, what they did to be successful during their time at Rutgers as an international student, and how they transitioned to their career. Okay, great. If you think of a question, feel free again to put it in the chat. We're going to move on probably to a hot topic, but questions in regards to CPT and OPT. Wei, would you like to facilitate this part and just ask the panelists, to share some feedback about this?
Sure. So yeah, as Jacqueline mentioned, I think this is the hot topic that all the international students want to get advised on. So if you can share with us, if you have done CPT, OPT work, can you please recommend or share your experience? And if you have landed in an internship or job, either especially outside of Rutgers, can you please share with us, and any tips that our international students can take away to land in an CPT, OPT work successfully, or very rewarding internship or jobs. This time, can we start with, I think this time, who will have experience with this? Maybe volunteer and talk about it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if all of you, is it applicable for all of you or not?
Yeah, I can go first.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
with all of us,
If
so,
it's
yeah.
applicable, then yeah, wait,
Yeah.
you want to go first, Jen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen.
Yeah, I can go first. I'm not quite sure about the rules now because it was probably 7 years back. Wow. I'm getting old. So the first recommendation is, number one, prepare your document and plan as early as possible. And always reach out to the teachers, professors, or especially the staff that work at the career services, not only just SMLR, but also, the Rutgers Career Service. Because back when I was there, I think we were supposed to attend a workshop session in order to get the stamped paper or form to apply for the CPT and OPT. You have to do the same as well. So be prepared and plan the documents as early as possible. And because everything has a deadline, and this is, the government process, you cannot play around with, and there's no exception if any delay or, late submission. It's not like you're submitting your homework that professor maybe will let you sneak through. This is no joke, so take it serious. Once you get the internship or the job make sure to build connections as much as possible, not only your managers, but also everybody that you may see on the floor, because you would never know that you will guarantee the job after your internship or your job working in that organization. Maybe, it's another team. And my experience landing at my first internship was actually I attended a career fair at Rutgers at the basketball court on Livingston campus. I did not plan to apply for, I interned at Mass Mutual at Secaucus. I was not planning to apply a job there because, there are so many great companies that are out there. Like, I remember there were IBM was a big hit, Johnson & Johnson was popular and people were lined up. I was one of those that was in line for those big companies. But I was actually stopped by the hiring manager who attended the career fair in representing Mass Mutual. And he started having conversation with me and collecting my resume. He said, well, I don't have a role right now because we're hiring for finance majors, but I may contact you if I need anything. And then none of the job that I actually stood in line for got me an internship. But I think I attended a career fair back in May or April. And then in June, I got a call from the manager that I talked to and said he needs somebody that could help him on a recruiting team. So that's how I got my internship. And I encourage everybody to talk to every single table and share and send out your resume to every single person that's attending the career fair, because you never know what would come your way. And the rewarding internship tips would be, talk to everyone, network online, offline, like Mayuri mentioned. It's, start, prepare early and build the connections. LinkedIn is a great place. If you can, feel free to message recruiters that are posting a job, or anybody that works as a recruiter, because recruiting, you really use LinkedIn most of the time. If you message somebody and like an HR manager or even a head of talent acquisition, they unlikely are going to respond to you. So recruiter definitely reach out to them and message. And also, prepare, be able to tell your story, how you got to this place, what is your passion, what are you good at, And also, like Vicky mentioned, utilize the career service. We have great program in our SMLR. Also, we have the Rutgers service team utilize both, maximize the resources you have.
Thank you, Jen. I like it that you mentioned, talk to as many people as possible. Don't just stuck with like big companies, right? Because we never know where we will land and where we will have opportunities. Thank you. Anybody else who have CPT, OPT experience who wants to share?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, someone else speaking, then in that case I can go later.
Okay, Mayuri, you have experience with that too, so can you?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think applying for CPT and OPT was quite stressful. I think being international students, we wanted to ensure that we got our documentation absolutely right. So in addition to what Jen said and spoke about attending the workshops, which were really helpful, it was also helpful speaking to certain like students who had gone through the process in the past, and to really help help us understand if there were any process, key parts in the processes that you did not want to absolutely miss out on, and that you wanted to sort of prepare early for. So I think that's also really helpful, speaking to certain students who've actually gone through the process. For me, in addition to doing an internship during the summer time, I also ended up converting my internship to part-time. So I was in a co-op arrangement as well. And I'd never done that before from, again, a visa standpoint, right? And so, again, I relied on a couple of students who'd done it in the past, as well as, the international student services to help me understand how to get that. So if you have any questions, I actually relied a lot on my international student services coordinator, and they have visiting hours. So if you have any questions, you can always go to their college art campus and ask them. They also, I think, have calling hours, and that's really helpful to get your questions resolved early on rather than waiting later for it. So that's just to add on top of what Jen already said. And then I think in terms of landing my first, internship, I think I went to the larger Rutgers career fair, and I also went to the SMLR career fair. And I was also aspiring to, work for certain companies. I remember, there's Johnson & Johnson, IBM, there was Procter & Gamble, and I stood in line for all of them. But unfortunately, I didn't have success. But what I was also doing simultaneously is not only relying on the career fairs, but I was also applying online to a lot of internships. I think I stayed open to working anywhere in the country. I was open to move if I needed for the summer. I also was applying for paid as well as unpaid internships, because there could be a couple of internships that are unpaid. And sometimes they're looked over because all of us, want to get paid and have a good stipend, so that we can support ourselves. But there were also some really lucrative unpaid internship. I think the one that I think of very clearly is the internship with the United Nations. And I really wanted to do that one as well. And so I just applied. I ensured that, I think the one important tip that I got early on is to ensure that your resume talks about how you've added value, how you can add value to the internship rather than just talking about certain tasks and responsibilities that you've done. So it was important to have a good resume in place early on when you started applying. Networking was important. And I believe keeping a lookout for all the emails that come from the career services, because that's how I actually got my internship. Because one late night when I came back from one of my 10 p.m. classes, on my way back, I saw an internship opportunity with this Australian company called Ansell Healthcare. And I looked at it, and the stipend was really great. And the role was actually really great. It was in their talent and learning team. And those internships were far and few to come. And I applied and I was hoping I'd get in. And then it went very smoothly from there. I applied. The next day I got a call for my interview. I gave my interview the following week, like on Friday, I think. And then I had an offer right early next week. So it can go as smoothly as that, when you find the right opportunity. So another tip, in addition to all of that, is keep a lookout for all the emails that you get from the career services, because they're really trying to, get the word out about as many internships that are available locally as possible. So sort of that's, one of the things that I would say can really help you. So that's a little bit, from my end.
Great, Mayuri. It's very helpful. And now I know why Career Service is sending their emails late at night after all our classes. And then we have free time to apply for internships, just so to have some fun. Thank you. And I think Vicky has something to share as
Yeah,
well.
I think just one kind of additional point. I think instead, like besides waiting for the emails from career services, what I also did is that I set up job alerts on the positions that I'm interested in. And also, I think one advice I want to give all the international student is that I know the H1B, the CPT, OPT is definitely a hinder for lots of us, because lots of the company, when they see, okay, there's an international student who requires sponsorship, they will reject you. But also in another way, it could be an advantage for you because you know a different language, you know a different culture. There are companies here looking for those type of people. So what I did when I was at Rutgers is I set up job alerts for anything that HR related that requires Mandarin, requires people who can speak Chinese. So that's how I set up my job alert. And that's how I found my internship at Colgate, is because at that time they need to roll out a system to China. So that became my competitive advantage instead of my disadvantage. So just a quick tip to share with all of you.
Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate that you mentioned, as international students, we think we have disadvantage, but actually we have advantage as well for speaking at least 2 different languages, right? And yeah, other advantages. So great, thank you. Pallavi, you have something to share with us too? Please do.
Yeah, sure. I can talk slightly technical about what CPT and OPT is, because everybody else gave a lot of good recommendations. So CPT is something which you do, which you have to finish your 2 semesters completely. And then this is something within the department and within the Rutgers who actually approves things, but OPT is slightly different. So once you finish your two semesters, and if you get an internship, say, then you will apply, you will go to Professor Ferrio, I think, who is the director of our SMLR, HRM program. So he approves it, and then you will apply via Rutgers Global Portal. And everything is online for right now. When I started doing my CPT, it was all online. You don't have to go attend workshops on campus. It's through their portal. Once you start your application process through their portal, the steps are very clear. They have everything in place, the documentation, the steps that's required for entire documentation is outlined in their portal. And I think one of my classmates, she was actually working with Rutgers Global. Her name is Stephanie. She was the one who actually helped me to understand all the CPT and OPT terms and everything related to CPT and OPT. So OPT is something you will do after your probably from your 3rd or 4th semester. OPT is something you do after you complete your graduation. So CPT is during your graduation time, and OPT is after you graduate. So OPT is something tedious process, because it should go to USCIS, they should approve it, and everything is like unpredictable. So you can apply for OPT 90 days before you graduate and 60 days after you graduate. From my personal experience, I say this timeline is very important. Do not apply before, not even a 1 day before 90-day period. I would suggest apply a few days later. So, your application goes in and everything gets processed. If you apply a few days before, I have seen a few of my friends who got rejected just because they applied 1 day before the 90-day period. So just remember this timeline: 90 to 60 days, 90 days before you graduate and 60 days from the day you graduate. And it took me around like 2 months. My story is slightly different because everything happened during COVID. So during COVID, it was very hard for international students to find an internship, to get an internship. although there were like few offers in hand, and when COVID happened, they just called it back. So for me, it took around like 2 months to get my EAD card. You can track everything online, and I heard like even USCIS right now, a friend of mine mentioned that you don't have to mail your documents right now. They streamline the process and everything is online as of now. So you just get into their portal and you apply. However, you will need I-20, new I-20. So you have to contact Rutgers Global for this. For you to start CPT or for you to start OPT, you will have to get a new I-20 from our student counselor. So never start your job or your internship or full time before you get your I-20, and not even a day before what the date is mentioned in the I-20. So these are like few technical things I just wanted to mention. Besides that, if I have to give you any recommendation, I would suggest like as of now, like when I graduated, I saw that a lot of local talent is involved in the management field. So for you to prove your competitive advantage, or to prove what you are, how different you can be from the local talent, you don't really have to be too extraordinary or something, but you have to be too flexible. Like don't fix it on just like you will go and you will work in the recruitment. Look out for other options. HR is very broad. So maybe compensation or finance side or something which is slightly technical and not too monotonous, or which anybody can do. Just look out for your own options, explore your own options within the HR, and try to find your own competitive advantage, which is more like a HR term.
Thank you, Pallavi. And it's great that you cover some technical part of CPT, OPT. I'm sure it is beneficial for everyone. And I also like your point that be flexible. I think that is very important for international students to land in a rewarding internship or jobs. Jacqueline, do we have time for their questions, or do you want to go ahead?
Yes, so I think what we should do is we have one more slide. And I was thinking, we feel like we've kind of touched a variety of different topics that hopefully all of you will find valuable advice. I'm trying to summarize it in the chat. So I know that we have closed captioning on, but if you want to see some of the advice that the panelists have been sharing, you're welcome to read them in the chat. I think one thing that we can just, maybe each of you can just like very concisely in a minute or so share this. What would be, what's okay, I want to say like what was your biggest challenge, but really what would be more beneficial is, how did you overcome your biggest challenge when of securing, let's talk about your full-time job, securing your full-time job that you have now. So how did you overcome that challenge? So Vicky kind of alluded to it. There's a stigma where if an international student needs, sponsorship, they're like, oh, I can't get through to this employer, or this employer is not interested in me. And Vicky, you kind of talked about how you used being bilingual to your advantage, right? So maybe can each of you spend like 1 minute and just talk about how did you overcome something that was either a challenge that you put in your own mind, mentally, like a barrier that you had to overcome mentally, or was it an actual like physical challenge that had to do with paperwork or getting sponsorship? Like, how did you overcome that? Do you mind if we do that for about a minute, and then we'll open up the floor for questions? Jen or Vicky, does one of you want to go first? Anything come to mind?
Okay, I'll start first.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pattern now. So real quick, I think my biggest challenge, it is indeed the sponsorship, because despite COVID, it didn't happen back then, but still, big companies are very competitive. Those roles that are, providing HR, seats, and they don't necessarily have to hire a international student. So my strategy was to start small, and I was not afraid of applying for jobs everywhere and anywhere I see anything related to HR. and also I observed what are the previous cohort that from the last year, where did everyone landed and how did they start? And I saw that there are a couple, industries, consulting, staffing, those are very popular, and a lot of them who went there, got a job and received sponsorship. So that's where I focused on when I applied for a job. And I literally applied like about 50 opening roles like every week. And many of them I got, rejected because of this, I just didn't hear back as soon as I mentioned sponsorship. And finally, and it landed at, also used a little bit of strategy where Vicky mentioned, which is utilize my Mandarin speaking, advantage to look for companies that are established or owned by minority, and also demonstrated, like, use whatever I had through my internship to during the interview, to kind of show my passion and tell them that I'm very flexible and I'm eager to learn. And I'm so I guess in short is not afraid to take a detour.
Yeah, that's great. Vicky?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, actually, both of the jobs I got are, even the one I have now, they don't offer sponsorship, but because my background fits it so well, so they ended up being offer me sponsorship. So I think my recommendation is first to really know yourself, know what you want, know what you're good at. And another thing is very important is to know the market, right? For certain areas in HR, there are just not enough talents in that market. For example, right now, the HR data analytics is a big piece. For example, what I'm in, the HR technology, they cannot get enough talent, so they have to go offer sponsorship. So that's my recommendation, is really to know the market well enough to see where are such opportunities, and then to kind of prepare yourself towards that way so that you can get those positions where they have to offer you sponsorship.
That's actually a great point. I'm just going to jump in real quick before the other two panelists give feedback. One thing I just want to encourage you all is to not self-select yourself out of a process even before you apply for a position. So to Vicky's point, if you see, if a job posting on a large company, let's just say a large company's website says that they're not doing sponsorship, a lot of time we as humans, look at job descriptions and we're like, oh, I don't meet, X requirements, or these requirements I meet, but it says preferred qualifications here, and I don't really meet all these preferred qualifications, so I'm not going to apply. But to Vicky's point, if you can position yourself by a tailored resume, maybe tailoring a personal statement or a cover letter, or networking with someone through LinkedIn and really demonstrating your value, or if you have a specific skill set or a specific language, or you're trilingual and you would really be a good benefit, and they're looking for candidates that they can't fill that talent, you might fit the need that they need. So try not to completely pull yourself out of the ranking and be a competitive candidate by applying and just positioning yourself in a way that might be beneficial to them in a niche market. May, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I think my situation is quite different from the panelists that are on today. So I essentially want to say just one thing is, I think as international students, there's sometimes a stigma in our head about the fact that going back to our home country might not give us rewarding careers. But I just want to say that that's not true. For example, there were a lot of my classmates who did not get internships when they were in the program, and they went to their home country to get an internship, and they did some really rewarding internship and work. So one thing I would say is, especially when you're in your internship period, if you don't end up getting something in the US, be open to going back to your home country and picking up a really rewarding internship, because I genuinely feel that each experience that you gain will count and would help you eventually land a full-time opportunity. And if you were to return to your home country, you can also land really rewarding careers here as well. So that's just something that I want to put out there, because I think that's sometimes a stigma that we create for ourselves. Applying for roles in the US, I think Jin and Vicky have covered, a lot of the key points that really help you. Another thing that I just want to have on, in addition to the resume and the cover letter, is having a really good elevator pitch to, really be able to position yourself, especially when you're having quick networking conversations with people. Not everyone is going to have time to go through your entire cover letter or your entire resume, but having a really good elevator pitch can really help, and not having it extremely rehearsed, but having a couple of key points and then being flexible as to what you want to highlight and put in the forefront when talking to either certain recruiters or when you're networking. So that could really help.
Thank you. Pallavi, did we hear from you yet? I can't remember. I don't think we heard from you on this yet.
No. So yeah, for me, same like everyone has. The biggest challenge was like even finding an internship was very hard, because it was all during COVID, during peak COVID. So internship for international students were slightly not that welcoming, because at the end of the day, they were looking for if they can convert your internship into, CPT into OPT, and then afterwards, if they can, if you can work a little longer. So CPT and OPT was really hard for me to find a job back then. However, I found one when I lost all hopes and was applying every company that I know on this world. So I applied almost like for 400 plus companies during the COVID period, and I was interviewed by a few. However, when I went and when I said that I'm an international student or I would probably require H-1B sponsorship later on, I was rejected on straight away. But then I got a job with NYU, and they promised me, like I was working with the vendor, and they promised me they would file H-1B for me. But then the budget became so bad that they did not stay on their promise. So this is one thing I would like to suggest everyone. Like if some employer mentions you that they are going to sponsor H-1B, try to take it in written if possible. Because what I did was I took it orally. I just took, like they said a word that they would sponsor my H-1B, and then I just took it for granted. But then at the end of the day, the budget issues came up, and they had to, they did not file my H-1B. Although vendor did not file, but NYU actually gave me an option to work from India after my OPT period. So they liked my work and they wanted me to continue. So they gave me opportunity, like if after the end of the OPT, if H-1B things don't settle up, I can work from India. However, that plan was slightly, I was not really that convinced, because you never know when you get fired. So I was looking for another job opportunities. So I figured out that finding a job position for H-1B in corporate America was slightly hard. Although my dream was to be in corporate America, but then I find that it was slightly off. I mean, like hard due to H-1B and all. So I started looking and applying for universities. So this is one recommendation I would say: don't just look for the companies don't just look for the companies, corporate companies. You will find a lot of HR positions in universities too. And the good news is, like, universities can file your H-1B around the clock. They do not have any cap like corporate H-1Bs they have. So they can file around the clock, not just in the month of March. I'm sure few of you might know, like H-1B has to be filed in the month of March, and it gets pitched. So if you're applying for universities, that's not the case. They can apply throughout the year, anytime. So my H-1B was applied probably in the month of September. And although it took like 3 months of time to get the process, the approval came in before the end of my OPT. With resumes, I think one thing I would like to mention, that many of few of your friends might suggest you that do not brag or vouch much about yourself, but I'm slightly of different opinion here. I would say, like, since you are from international student, tell what you can do, what difference you can make. So vouch for yourself. So that's one recommendation I always give to my fellow international students. So nobody is going to brag for you. Nobody is going to tell what your skills are, what tools you know. Just in the interview, in the first round, make sure that the committee knows your competitive advantage, the tools that you know. So when I say about tools, I also suggest that know a lot many tools. Most of the tools are same, like whatever the tools, technical tools HRs might use, or any compensation analyst or finance analyst might use, are similar, but they're slightly different. So try to know and understand the basics of the tools and try to apply it. That's one recommendation I would like to give.
Great. Thank you for sharing. I
Sure.
really appreciate that. I think that it's valuable advice and feedback that you gave. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. I know we started a few minutes late anyway, but we are closing out at 8:32. So with that, I did just write in the chat, does anyone have any questions for the panelists? Oh, good. We got a question for Vicky, but I also want to say, I know that the panelists saw this. Do you mind if I still share your contact information? I know I had asked you guys that in an email. But your contact information for the panelists is up here. So if anyone has any questions, or if you want to screenshot this and follow up with the panelists, you can reach out to them either on email or on LinkedIn. I don't know if any of you ladies want to comment on that at all. But I know that all of them, I'm sure, would be happy to answer any other questions that you said, anything that you shared, any advice that you had. You know, they all pretty much alluded to networking and the importance of networking, and they all have, you know, great positions. So again, even if you aren't necessarily an HR or labor relations student, but you have, you know, other questions that you'd like to ask them about their experience being an international student, feel free to reach out to them. So the question that came through on the chat for Vicky was, could you talk about your current position and elaborate what a job in HR technology consists of?
Yeah, sure. Maybe quickly to cover this. So HR technology covers a lot. So they're like starting from strategy to vendor selection to actually implement a technology and to manage a technology. So there are like a full cycle around HR technology. So basically anything, any tool, any platform that HR uses to maximize their work to help support their employee experience, those are HR technology related. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to definitely share more if you're interested in this career.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the panelists? Just getting thank yous. I got a couple other messages. Everyone's thankful. So if there's no particular questions right now, again, I'll just say one more time, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat now, or you could unmute and ask the question. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to the panelists. As I mentioned, everyone is still saying thank you to you all in the chat. As I mentioned, I work specifically in the School of Management and Labor Relations Career Services team. If you have questions that you would like to meet with an advisor about, again, I can connect you with someone. If you're not an HR or labor relations major, you want to connect with someone from the Office of Career Exploration and Success, I'm happy to do that. I'm going to put the chat, everyone is saying thank you to you all. I'm going to put in the chat our SMLR Career Services email address. So it's just smlrcareerservices@smlr.rutgers.edu. So again, if you'd like to connect with me, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, if you would like to connect with an advisor and you're not sure where to start, someone from CES, just send us an email through this SMLR Career Services account and I'll help connect you with someone. But with that, I just want to thank all of the panelists so much for your time and all of the advice that you shared. It was very, very valuable. And I appreciate the the time that you spent, the time zones that you're each in. And we hope to connect with you further. So thank you so much. And I hope that everyone has a great evening, and in May's case, morning. Good
Yeah.
start to your day. All right.
Thank you
Goodbye,
so much.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great panel.
Thank you,
Thank
panelists.
you.
Thank you, students, for joining. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night and good evening.
Bye.